Okay, so we're going to talk about electrical stimulations, and the few types of electrical stimulations that we are working on or that we tend to see is your TENS, your NMES, and probably your interferential, which is also similar to your radio frequency. The common thing they do is they are all electrical stimulation. They use electricity, but the difference of proposed mechanism is different. So TENS is very superficial, and what we end up working on is at the skin layer, there's a lot of nerve endings. Okay, and we are stimulating it using a patch, regardless of where. Okay, usually over the area of pain, somatic referral areas. And what we're trying to do is we're stimulating this through, this is the air delta fibers, the nerve fibers that go through, but obviously there are other fibers such as like your nociceptive C fibers, which carries your inflammatory messages and so forth. But the input of this will reach to a point at the end of the um, synapse area. Okay, so the messages comes in, whether it be coming from A delta or C fibers. So the A delta will come in and it will finish up all the chemical compounds on the presynaptic area, which then results in when the C fibers comes in, they have no more to transmit across. Therefore, you stop the nociceptive input into the brain, relying and allowing for a different, I guess the brain has less input to process, therefore the presentation of pain is relief. So you get pain relief in that. However, the downside of that is within 15-30 minutes, again, our body secretes new pathways again, new chemicals again, and then they will start feeling the pain. Is it important for us to have it? I think yes. I think it is still important for us to recognize that this is a harmless and drug-free approach to provide pain relief. Okay, but the key that you have to understand though is this is only working at a presynaptic area. So therefore, what happens is if this is not the cause of their pain and the pathway is not being blocked, then you won't get your desired pain relief results. Okay, and also there is an adaptation occur as well. So therefore, as you keep sending A delta and it finishes it and all that, our body eventually just adapt. So sometimes that neuroplasticity is good. Therefore, our body says, I don't need to know so much about the C fibers input, then they will desensitize the area. So sometimes it works in that way, but sometimes it works in a negative way whereby the same TENS that you applied now doesn't work anymore. So therefore, the TENS you need to change to vary intensity at times. Now, we are going to go for a NMES. So what is NMES? So we are now concentrated on output. So this is input and this is now the output nerves. The output nerves goes into this, and we usually choose to put the patch over the area of the highest concentration of motor points. Motor points are for that particular nerve, for that particular auxiliary nerve, for example, that supplies to deltoids. Then they have most motor points around posterior deltoids. Okay, so put one around the posterior deltoids as the area where we send the signals, and our target is to achieve a muscle contraction. Now, why are we doing this? Maybe because this nerve that the brain decides that we need to go into a guarding response. Okay, therefore we are modulating it by stimulating the muscles to contract in a rhythmic manner. We contract it, let go it, contract it, let go it. Okay, we don't random shoot signals. And then because we're doing in a rhythmic manner, it allows for the brain to say, hey, I can relax this area more. Okay, so one, we're stimulating it from allowing reset of this neuromuscular guarding that we have, and the neuromuscular guarding can contribute to a presentation of a person's pain. Okay, second one is with this you also get pumping, so therefore you're getting sort of localized blood flow to the area, which then also generalize a little bit endorphin release around the local spot of this area, which also ends up leading to a pain relief. Okay, so then this is where we are aiming for when I have a lot more neck guarding stiffness type and feel, but they may not 100% be coming from a nerve. So this one I tend to do for a peripheral nerve issue, whereas this one I tend to do with more of a pain presentation where they are more postural, muscular related. Now we come to interferential. Okay, so interferential now works on the C fibers. How does it work? Okay, basically it uses very low frequency. So you have an area of a plate that stimulates the current. Okay, the current goes through, and there's a receiving plate that receives the current. Okay, so the current goes in a unidirectional manner. Okay, now because it's low frequency, there's nothing that will happen when this happens. Okay, but then what happens with where is a so-called interferential by definition is where I put another current and then another plate, receiving plate, that would then create this part here. Okay, now the interference is this part here. All right, so the concept of it is we then allow the sort of focal point of these two areas to address very deep structures. Okay, so sometimes the local nerve, so say for example around the skin here, the nociceptive nerve, but if it's in the shoulder joint, the shoulder nerve that supplies to the shoulder joint nerves, not all of it comes from auxiliary that you can stimulate. Some of it comes from supraspinatus nerve, and some isolated nerves from, I think, subscapular nerve as well for the inferior capsule. So when it's so wide variety of nerves innervation to the joint, then an intervention was being created so that we use low frequency so that we can go the depth. But because there's interference going on, then we are creating this stimulation. I think C fibers is only a crude thing. I think we'll also stimulate other things because patients generally feel a little bit of a warmth deep inside the joint as well. But it's electricity, so what is it stimulating? Any freaking fibers lah, alright? So this then allows for a more targeted to a deeper structure. Okay, what is this in region? This is your radio frequency, which is your theta. Okay, it has a plate, it has an end, and then it usually requires you to work on one transference of the plate to go through. Okay, but the mechanism of theta is slightly different, whereby the emissions of it is the current goes through and reads a repulsive emission from the holder, which then penetrates this particular waveform, so-called deeper, right? But that covers all of this with a different sort of hypothesis that we are working on how to achieve pain relief in our patient. So it doesn't just mean that your patients, you mobilize and all that will be the best. There's no taboo in using a complex. There's no taboo in using a theta and all that. If your goal is pain modulation, If the pain is the primary outcome, which is the same thing I'm going to use for shockwave. So what does shockwave do? Shockwave goes into specifically stimulating, and the way that we're going to use the new shockwave is we're going to specifically stimulate the C fibers, the ones that send big, sharp, dangerous signals. Okay? And then those signals, we stimulate it, hopefully to reproduce a person's unpleasant experience of pain, and as a result of stimulating it, that then lead to a similar tense response that we're talking about here, and then the adaptation can occur. Who should I fire?